Hello, everybody. As usual, I hope everybody's having a good evening and a really good weekend and everything. It's July 15th. I'm posting a video right now on YouTube, but I thought I would do a separate one that's a little more in depth, I guess, maybe, perhaps. Yeah, I was playing around with my iPhone, and I have a really cool home screen on it. Sort of a loaded topic. I don't know if you recognize that. That was the first logo of the United States Space Force. It's like a Egyptian, like a globe, like a pharaoh, like a sphinx looking up at a star. It's sort of a Star Trekky type symbol. I just thought that was funny for the United States Space Force logo. I think the star is Rigel, R-I-G-E-L. Which, if you go back into the ancient astronaut stuff, you know, that's supposed to be like a star that's like has some level of importance throughout the history of mankind. Rigel. And there's Vega. If you go back to the Contact movie with Jodie Foster, Hail to Vega.
Hail to Vega, hail to Vega, hail to Vega, hail to Vega.
Hail to Vega. That's where the in the Contact movie, the aliens like supposedly sent a message from was from Vega.
It looks like somebody get a TV monitor.
All right, pass the recording into the image processor.
You want the new data?
Yeah, the new frequency, the one we just recorded.
All right.
David, would you explain this to me, please? You're patched in.
All right, it's definitely an image. Let's try and stabilize it.
Good old Vega. And then there's like Proxima Centauri, where the Dogon people in Africa, the Dogon people, so like a primitive tribe in Africa, when there was like some investigators there a long time ago, back before like all the mainstream media, alien, UFO stuff, you know, when they asked like the Dogon people, like, where are you from? They pointed to like, to Sirius. To the Sirius star system. And unbeknownst to the scientists at that time, you know, Sirius star system is a binary star system. So there's Sirius A and Sirius B. It might even be a trinary system if I'm not mistaken, but you know, Sirius A and Sirius B, you know, there's like, come to find out there's exoplanets orbiting Sirius B, and from what they're saying now in scientific circles is that the exoplanets that are orbiting Sirius B are exoplanets that are within what they call the Goldilocks zone, which is not too hot, not too cold. It's just right around that star. And that, you know, which means it can support like life, you know, water. You know, it's a good temperature. You know, it's not too hot, not too cold. So it can possibly support life. So that's fascinating. Go look into that yourself. I'm not going to delve into that, you know, here and now. I'm just really tired, but I just wanted to, after the last video I just posted to YouTube, I sort of wanted to make another one that's just a little more extended, just talking about my thoughts that I've had over the past couple weeks and so on. You know, today, this past day was Saturday, and I went out to just look, you know, I went into town, and which I don't do super often. I mean, I go to my local pub, which a lot of you will know, But I witnessed a car crash, which was, I'm going to say it was pretty cool because nobody was hurt and there was no injuries or anything, like serious injuries or whatever. But I was sitting at a stoplight, like in front of the Walmart here in my town. And I hear like a car like coming like behind me. I'm like in the, like our highway, our main road going north and south in my town has like 3 lanes. And then every once in a while it goes into like 2 turn lanes or 1 turn lane on each side or whatever. But I was in the fast lane, the far left lane, heading northbound in my town. And I hear a car like coming up like fast, you know, and it like blew past me into the intersection. It blew through a red light and like it didn't quite T-bone the car. Let me see if I can get, yeah, it didn't quite T-bone it. It like hit it in the front wheel. And I'll probably post this later, so I'll see if I can like insert like a picture of that front wheel of that poor car that it hit. Some guy, I don't know, he was a young, I'll call him a kid because he was much younger than I am. He's in his 20s, so half my age. He's young enough to be my kid or whatever, but so I'm going to call him a kid. But the kid blew through a red light and didn't T-bone, but like, I guess that's sort of an L-bone. L-bone, if you go upside down or whatever. He like L-boned that car, which was a new Kia. It was like a 2022 or 2023 because it had the new Kia logo on it. But yeah, but only in Kentucky can I say that when a car accident happens, usually people are sort of like stressed or sort of mad at each other, you know, for the accident happening. But I was very pleasantly surprised because even the kid who like blew the red light, first thing he did was sort of jump out of the car and like apologize. You know, he knew it was his fault and there was no way around that. And I was a third party eyewitness, so I drove through the intersection, parked up at like a local bank, and then walked back to the scene, maybe 150 feet. But I was pleasantly surprised, like I said, to see people be so friendly to each other. You know, you had the guy who L-boned or T-boned or whatever, the Kia. And then when they hit that Kia, it sort of got pushed and scratched the bumper of another Kia on the other side of the intersection. And they were out of their car. They stayed, you know, till the police got there and everything and filed their report for insurance. They had no serious damage, but just scratches on the bumper from the collision, the first Kia scratching, you know, and then, yeah. So I'm not going to get into the details, but I probably already have, but I'm not going to keep rehashing it. But so, but it was just, I've always had like a phrase, like only in Kentucky. Like only in Kentucky. And to this evening was one of those another only in Kentucky scenes where, like I said, the guy who ran the light got out, apologized, was making sure everybody was okay. The person that he hit, same thing. Are you okay? You know, are you okay? And the guy was like, oh yes, I'm fine. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And they're like, don't worry about it. These things happen. They just happen. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. You know, and the kid's in some old Honda. He probably didn't even have full coverage insurance. He was probably liability only, you know, but they didn't put up a stink about it. Nobody did. And so that was just cool, you know, and with everything the world's going through these days and all the shit, all the bullshit that we're going through in this world, it was nice to see people actually like care about each other rather than like dwell on the material possessions that were destroyed or messed up in the accident. So very, very nice to see. And the police ended up showing up. I gave my little third party eyewitness statement because, like I said, I was at the light, like I said, in the far left northbound lane, and so okay, so the camera's reversed here, so I'm sitting over here, and this like Honda's like flying up, and it's like a red light, and he's like, you know, and everything happened and everything. I wasn't like physically involved at all, but yeah, so that was my evening, and I was a little bit stressed out, so I ended up going up to my local pub and hanging out there for a couple hours, and got to talk to some cool people, some cool, you know, some friends of mine, and that sort of. And when I was talking to the police officer at the scene, you know, he's like, "Do you have an ID?" And normally I would have done like the First Amendment like auditor thing, like I don't need to give you an ID or whatever. I'm just going to give you a statement, but I didn't care or whatever. So I went ahead and gave my ID, but I was a little bit shaky, you know, because I had like even though I wasn't in the accident, I like witnessed it happen right in front of me. I still have the vivid memory of seeing the whole thing happen. So I went ahead and gave him my ID, and he's like, "You weren't involved, were you?" And I'm like, no, I'm just a little bit nervous. I apologize. And he's like, okay. He just sort of, you know, chuckled, and he took my statement, and then he said, "You're good to go." So I just went ahead and left, got out of there. So it was pretty clear cut. So pretty clear cut case of who was at fault and so on and so forth. So I went to my little pub for a couple hours and didn't drink too much. Maybe 2 beers, because I'm good about that, you know. In the past, I used to be an irresponsible person, irresponsible drinker, but I measure everything out now. So I had my excuse me, I had my 2 beers, 2.5 over 4 hours, so I was already metabolizing off the first ones I had, so I was good to go. But so I ended up running into a German friend of mine, his Slovakian wife, and come to find out, you know, both of them grew up in an area of the world, you know, where they had to learn Russian. My German friend, he grew up in East Germany before the fall of the Berlin Wall. So I you know, I didn't realize or know that he had to learn Russian, but he said he cheated. He didn't pay attention in that class, but his Slovakian wife, she knew some Russian and stuff, and I got to like talk with her, you know, and what Russian I knew, and so that was really neat. It's just amazing to me, and I've said it in the past, like in previous videos, maybe a long time ago, but even here in the middle of like Somerset, Kentucky, yeah, I just gave away my town. In the middle of Somerset, Kentucky, you know, you could like go to a pub and on a Saturday night at, you know, 7, 8, 9 o'clock and run into people from all over the world, you know, and have a good conversation and like exchange like culture. So like I said, my Slovakian friend, which was my German friend's wife, she knew more Russian. She remembered more of it from school. So we went back and forth, and then she works in a factory here in Kentucky, out here like Russell Springs or whatever, and they're trying to teach the factory executives. She's like in human resources or whatever, but they're trying to teach them like Spanish so they can speak with a lot of the employees that come in there and everything, but she's having a hard time, and which I understand because, like, you know, she's like being a native Slavic language speaker, like English and Spanish and the Romance languages are very, very difficult to learn for people who speak Slavic, Cyrillic based, like, you know, former Soviet Union type languages. And much the same for English speakers like myself. You know, it's very difficult to learn Russian. You know, I've been learning it bit by bit over the past like 20 or 30 years. So it's very difficult. And then Chinese, that's a whole nother like ballpark. Trying to learn Chinese, the different syllables, like ma. You got like ma, 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 ma. There's like 4 different inflections on like a single syllable, and if you don't get that right, then it means something completely different. And you know, sometimes in movies and stuff, you see sort of like Chinese speakers. You know, they probably exaggerate it a little bit in the movies, but I'm just going to imitate it. This probably means nothing, but like a Chinese speaker would be hun chao hun jia hu xiao hun ya. You know, so it's like all over the place, but in reality, that's the way Chinese is. You have to enunciate each syllable, whether it's like an up mark, a down mark, a curvy mark, a flat mark, and each one means something a little bit different. I think like the ma that I mentioned earlier, it means like mother. It means like horse. It means like something else and something else. And if I go back, way back to when I used to work for a government contractor, we had she was Taiwanese, and her parents were native Chinese speakers and stuff. And when they were trying to teach her Chinese, they didn't stress that she learned the different enunciations of the different syllables I'm talking about. So she learned the proper thing. So like ni hao, but it's like ni hao. So you have to enunciate it the right way. But everything she said was sort of monotone, and she didn't have all the different inflections. And so when her extended Taiwanese family came to visit the United States, they like whispered to like her parents, like, is she retarded? You know, is there something wrong with your daughter? You know, she can't speak properly or whatever, but they never taught her that. Now, later on in life, she's, you know, learned the proper way, you know, of all the syllables, because she already had the vocabulary, but she just needed to learn the right enunciations of the different syllables. So it's just fascinating how languages are so different from place to place and somewhat so similar at the same time. Like when I was talking to my Slovakian, my German friend's wife, who's from Slovakia, you know, Slovaks, you know, they use Cyrillic. They call it something else there, but they use the Cyrillic alphabet. And she knew a lot of stuff and a lot of the words that I knew. Similar to my Lithuanian friends that I've talked about in a couple previous videos. A lot of them grew up before the fall of the Soviet Union, so they were forced to learn Russian and then they're Lithuanian as well, you know, which they spoke at home. So, but it was sort of funny with my Lithuanian friends. They said the only main words that they carried over in everyday speech was the curse words from Russia. Just all the curse words and blat. I don't know them all, but yeah. So I think blat, B-L-A-T, that's one of them. It's like bitch or something. I don't know, but yeah. Crazy world we live in. Haven't really kept up on the news with what's going on in Russia, the Ukraine, and the conflict going on over there. I'm just trying to focus on work and not pay as much attention to the news that I used to. It's just too stressful. I can't sleep. Sometimes at night there's a one or two people, like Tim Pool's one of them, and then the Canadian prepper guy. Because it's something in their voices. It puts me to sleep. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it puts me to sleep. But at the same time, as I'm falling asleep, I tend to have some dreams about whatever they're talking about. And even though what they're talking about is not necessarily positive, my brain sort of tries to translate it, you know, the negative situation they're talking about into a positive thing, you know, in the future. So, yeah. It's weird. It's really weird. And because I fall asleep so fast, like as they go into what they're saying and everything, it sort of triggers my mind, and I sort of go into a lucid dreaming state to where it's like very, very realistic and lucid. So, man, I've been rambling here now for a while. 19 minutes and 40 seconds after a 6, 7, 8 minute video, whatever I did before here. So, having a little bit of a Coors. Whole Budweiser thing, I'm not even going to get into that whole debacle, but bless Bud Light's hearts, all the people who have been laid off, and the drivers and the factory people and everything, you know. Sorry you were in that situation, but you saw it coming. You should have found a new job before it got to the point that it is now. So if you're complaining about it, it's your own fault. Should have jumped out. Well, the jumping out was good because, you know, Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light, the whole Bud label, you know, it was a big thing. And it's hard for all the other beer, even though the business for other beer companies is picking up, it's difficult for them to absorb the entire staff and the layoffs coming from Anheuser-Busch. So, yep. Oh, yeah. I think I started to say, it's 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 2, 3, 4, 5. But no, I loaded iOS 17 onto my iPhone this past it was probably about this time yesterday, middle of the night, 24 hours ago. And iOS 17 has a cool new feature called Personal Voice. It's an accessibility feature in the accessibility section. It's primarily made for people who know they're possibly or going to potentially lose their voice over a certain period. So when you activate the feature, it asks you to like read like 150 phrases that it generates. And it takes those 150 phrases and somehow combines them and like, you know, puts them into a thing where from that point forward, once it's finished, you can, let me test it here. So I have the feature turned on, so I'm going to hit my side button 3 times, and that turns on the feature. Let me unlock my phone. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it says, please, like, type to speak. And I'm going to type in, like, testing, 1, space, 2, space, 3. And this is going to sound exactly like me through the microphone. It's crazy. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do it again. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I just said it. This is the AI. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Dude, it's creepy as shit, man. It blows my mind. It opens up like whole new avenues. You know, I know with AI and chat AI and taking like politicians and different like, you know, media people's voices, you can cut out like certain words. And if you want to go way back to a movie, Sneakers, it's like a hacker movie with Robert Redford and I think it's Dan Aykroyd and a couple other really good actors or whatever. There was a scene in there where they're trying to get like some dude's voice so they can get through like a biometric voice verification system. And so they send like a chick who's a part of their hacker team to go on a fake date with like a guy that works for the company. And and she's like, just say password one more time. And he says it like, password, or my voice is my identity, please verify me. She basically had to get him to say all the words so they could piece them together and then, you know, play it through recorder and the system verifies. So that was way back. That was like an early 1990s movie maybe. So now, You know, it just said testing, 1, 2, 3, and exactly my voice. Just from giving it like 150 random phrases. So, and then once you do that, you can export that in a zip file, and then probably import it into other AI things, you know, who can learn your voice. You could share it across all your different devices, like my iPhone, my iPad, my MacBook, my other desktop machine. So anything that I type into that, I can say. And then if you integrate like my voice with like a chat bot, then I can say, I can, when somebody calls me, I can say, I don't want to talk to them or whatever, just chat bot take over. And the chat bot will take over talking with my voice and talking to whoever called me. You know, it could be a friend of mine or whatever, but they won't, you know, unless they're really savvy or whatever, they're not going to know it's not me, because the chatbot's going to know who I am. It's going to know my style. It's going to know how I would respond to them, but it's going to do it all in my own voice. So crazy, crazy stuff. So this one's gone quite a bit longer, about 26 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off. Get out of here for the night. It's about 10 till midnight Pacific Standard Time. So everybody have a good night and peace out.